Good morning. This is Norma Cowie here for the regular Wednesday Norma Talks. During the last few days, a thought has come into my head that is, I have said often years ago a lot, and that is everything adds. Because of all that's going on in the meantime, it sometimes seems impossible how certain things are going to add with our restrictions, with our cancellations and all the other things that have gone on. We forget sometimes that everything adds. But how does that really work, and how does that come about? And how did I come to that understanding that everything added? And so I'm just going to share you the main tarot symbol that I have found. I'm just going to bring it up. It should be here. I'll just give it a little click here. Oh, this should do it. There we go. That we, this card, this particular tarot card is the Tower. Now I'm just going to expand this. What it taught me, this card, a couple of things in particular, was the first step when anything goes on in your life is acceptance. And why is that? That is because when we look at this, what we see here, there are this tower, this W here, which is often shown as an implement of the messenger from the gods, but it's coming in and it's destroying what's being built. This hole up here with the crown, whatever is going on in your life is being taken apart. Everything has disappeared. And from it flung two people. And this is one of the main things I began to realize when I look at this person on the right who's falling away from these lights, which is what we call the odds of light. And there's 22 of them, which is the steps of the higher arcana. Now, this man here is falling away from these yards of light, but he's still holding on to his crown. The crown representing that which is being flung off. And he's falling backwards away from the steps. And when you fall backwards, honestly, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what's happening. And you can see it's very craggy and it's high and it's not very nice. So there's nothing really to support him here. Now, this is about having to accept. The first step I began to realize was whatever goes on, you must accept it, no matter what it is. Then in the acceptance of it, what we find here is that the other man doesn't have a crown. He is falling face first, and he's got this one little yard of light. Now, that one is number one of the higher arcana, which is the magician, which says all things are possible. And then on this side here, there is 12. And that yards of light, number 12 is the hanged man, which is acceptance. And this is where I know that the first step is to accept what's going on. This is incredibly important because that's what needs to happen. You need to accept, oh my goodness, look what's going on. Okay, this is what's going on. And as I'll come further, there's some other steps. But then as we look on this side over here, there is 10, and that is the Wheel of Fortune, which is doing the movements that you have to have rebuilt. So I think you've got the picture here. One person who's holding on is not going anywhere. One person that is accepting is moving on. So let's just go back for a moment in the sense of really considering everything adds. It took me a long time to realize that when some of the disasters most of our lives face at some point or other, that what it does is give opportunity for other things. So the first step is acceptance. The second step is then to decide on the direction you're going. Now, how do we come to these decisions of what we want? I think is that we process what it is that we want. Now, this is where, through other symbology, I began to realize the majority of people react. And because they are reacting, because they are in reaction to whatever's going on, they're not thinking clearly. They're just reacting. Either they want to get away or they want to change it, or they want it back the way they were. So they're kind of stuck like the man on the right of the symbol, and you might have seen that on the left, but on the right, where he's falling away from the lights, away from the steps that rebuild your life. Over the years, I've had lots of tower things happen to me. Out of the blue, you hear a piece of news that I remember twice I've had to tear back to New Zealand because of my parents. One, my mother had cancer and had only 3 months. Well, she was given 3 months. She lasted 4, bless her heart. And my father, who died in his sleep. I always thought that was a great way to go. He was in a nursing home, and at 10 to 7, the night nurse checked him, sleeping peacefully. The shift changed at 10 after 7. The daytime nurse checked on him, and he had gone. And so I kind of had to bundle everything up and get down to New Zealand for the funeral, which I was very, very happy to attend, because I get to see a lot of my family that I don't always see. And that was that sounds terrible, but it was a place. But unfortunately, at that time, I was producing large psychic fairs, and it was in August, and we start in September. So I couldn't stay very long. In fact, I stayed for a while, saw everybody, and then had my flight back brought forward so I could get back home and take care of business. Because there's things that you need to do, and there are priorities. And one of them, this is my bread and butter, so I needed to get back. But it was like unexpected things happen. I know one time we had one of our shows in Calgary, and we were doing incredibly well. We had lineups of people coming in, and it was a Sunday afternoon, which is always the best day. And there was lines of people, and the police came in to close us down based on one policeman who was a Christian, didn't think we were doing the correct thing. And from that, a lot of things happened for the city of Calgary. And we lost a lot of money, yes. And we had to go to court to prove, because we were not only we were I can't remember all the ins and outs now because it's quite a few years ago. But my business partner at the time and myself, we went to court. I had to get up there and defend what we were doing. And what began to happen there, we ended up changing the law in Calgary so that psychics could work, because Calgary was one city that psychics weren't allowed to work. And we eventually managed to get that changed. So you see, from disaster, and because we handled it and dealt with all the pieces that we had to deal with, what ended up happening, it was better for the city, much, much better for the city. And they still have shows to this day where they have psychics reading. So it's like sometimes we can't always react or judge that what's happening is the end. It's like about finding strength. And one of the things I love about the tarot card, as often with all the symbology, it shows you the way out. It shows you if disaster has occurred, if something has happened that you just cannot get your head around, just stop and take a breath. And just think of accept the reality of what's happening, because it is only in the acceptance. And the other thing I learned through the Hanged Man, which is you need to accept 100%. And I know sometimes things have happened in my life. I didn't want to accept them 100% at all. I didn't want anything too much to, it's like, oh, why can't this go away? Or I was a great one of just kind of putting it over there and we'll just ignore it for a while. I found that didn't work in life. It didn't work in my relationships. It didn't work in other business situations. It didn't work in many little situations. It's like confronting the reality of what is and accepting it 100%, because when you accept things 100%, what you do is you then make a decision of what else you want to change and do. It's like you then can look at this and say, oh, okay, that's a reality. What am I going to do about this? And often it's more than one step, just as the yards of light that come on up in the tower. It's like a step by step by step as you move forward. But often I find it's decisions. So let's take a look at decisions. Decisions are where you decide to do a course of action. But I find you do not make a decision until you've accepted whatever it is 100%. and before the decision isn't put in place. This whole acceptance element is huge, actually, when you begin to look at life from what am I accepting and what am I not accepting? Because very often what we're not accepting, what's happening is we're not dealing, we're not taking care of, we're not making it work in the way that we want, that supports our lives or the direction of where we're heading and where we're going. It's the most interesting element that I have found as to how to create. And I've been fortunate, and I've, as I said, many changes in my life. Some of them have worked out really well, and some have not. And often, the one big major thing for me was when I didn't want to accept that I was going to be divorced twice. And so I hung in a situation where I shouldn't have been because I didn't want to be a twice divorced woman. No, but very few of us in my family was divorced once, but to be divorced twice, I just didn't want to deal with that. And because of that, because I did not accept that that's what I needed to do, my life had a big impact. It had a big impact on my life because I lived for a lot of years not very happy. You know, and when you're not happy, when you're not accepting the reality of what is, and you're not happy, things don't work well. And so it didn't work well until finally I realized, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to do this. And so at that point I did. And that was like after a lot of years of my life, in a way, going away. Now, once I did that, there were other things that began to happen as well. You know, I don't talk about things from a theoretical point of view. It's because I've experienced them. Then the miracles can happen. And a lot of people don't believe in miracles, but I do, because I've had them happen in my life. There was a time when I really was very low, and economically things weren't looking good. I was not, you would call, myself at all. I was a shadow of myself. And it was like everything was painful and hurting, and I didn't know really what to do. I just couldn't get my act together, as they say. Then I ran into a person that used to work for me she didn't work for me. She rented space for my psychic fairs. And she said to me, you look like you need some help here dealing with psychic people. You know, some people just read you. And I said, yeah, I do. And anyway, she gave me a phone number to phone. And that phone number changed my life, because I began to go back out working as a psychic. I began to make money, which I needed to do. I began to feel good about myself, because many people recognized me and came up and started saying how much my books had helped them and other things. I really didn't like doing the work, though it was long hours and it was hard. And it was hard. It was hard for me. It was hard for me on many levels. I had to let go any ego I had, any pride that I had to let it go, because I needed to eat at that time. And but you see, everything adds. If I hadn't gone to that level of being not really sure where I was going and what I was doing, and I don't know where I'd be today, actually. But what happened, because I accepted my reality and because I accepted help that came to me, and actually had to fight for that a little bit, to be honest, because the person who ran the psychic circle didn't really want to let me in, and I fought for it. I had to fight for it verbally, not physically, but verbally, to point out that I wouldn't use my tarot. I had other things I could use. It's just true. I did. So what I want you to see is that everything adds if you're open for it. If you can accept your reality, if you can accept who and what you are now, if you are willing to allow the miracles to come in one way or the other, if you're open, because I didn't even know, I just was stuck. And yeah, the universe will take care of you. There was one other symbol that makes me want to think, and I'm just going to hold this up, and that is the Four of Cups. You'll notice in the Four of Cups that the man here is sitting cross-legged and crossed arms, This is his life. And there's something else being presented to him that he's not interested in at all, doesn't want to see, know, hear, or experience. Now, it does show it if you will look at the Five of Cups, everything falls over because he's holding on too tight and not allowing flexibility. And I actually have the tarot in my hand here, so I'm just going to hold it up rather than sharing the other way. And what happens then, bang, if you don't let go when you need to let go, something comes along to remind you, you got to let go of this. This is not working for you. So this is where I began to create to really understand what the tarot had been telling me for years, that everything adds. You may not know that it adds, but it does. When I look back now, that phone number that was given to me changed my life in so many ways. I cannot tell you. It actually means why I sit here today. It actually brings me to a point. Now, I could say, oh, I'd done a lot of TV work before, way, way, way back. I had, and that started my career in lots of ways. But it's like that nothing is taken away. Everything adds. Everything you've ever done, everything you've ever thought, everything that you've ever been adds to the present. But is it working for you? Is it bringing you into a place where you can say, I'm at peace with myself? Am I everything in place? And if there isn't, because life will come along and go and knock on the door, lightly in the beginning, and then harder and harder until you have no recourse but to accept it and make the decisions that you want. So in a way, you can relook at your lives and say, okay, what am I not looking at? What am I not working on? What am I not allowing in? Because life always adds, no matter how painful it is, it's adding to you. Emotional pain. I've got a lot of physical pain because of old sports injuries. But at the same point, what it does is it brings an understanding, and you can accept limitations and move beyond them. You can understand where it is you want to go and what you want to do. Life is not a bowl of cherries. For some it is, yes. But for most of us, it's about making the best with what we've got and recognizing if we are open to receive, we're showing the way. We're showing the path. We're allowed to grow. Each life has given us an opportunity to grow in knowing and understanding and being aware who you are. And that's what I want for every person that listens or sees or experiences life, is to know, even though it might look horrible, feel horrible, and you have no idea what's going to happen next, just remember, everything adds. It's what you do with it. Do you accept it 100%? Do you look for I'm sure my mom gave me this one, and she said, all the doors may be closed, look for the window. Yeah, look for the window. What does the window show? Because very often in our own minds, which can be a little small sometimes and doesn't take into the bigger picture, we may be looking at doors rather than looking at windows and seeing which direction. To allow the beingness of life, allow the essence of life. And so on that point, I think I'm done for today in the senses. And I just want to remind you that, if you liked what you heard today, please press likes or subscribe if you haven't already. I sure appreciate it when you subscribe and press likes. It helps the channel, helps the whole element of that. And also to remind you, I'll be back on Sunday with a Sunday Thought. And again, now on Monday nights when I do my mental mind treatments. And thank you for the people that are responding to that. Every week we're getting more people coming on and asking for their mind mental treatment, which is in a way, another way of doing prayers. And I've had to do a lot of praying in my life at times when things have not been the way I wanted, but to be open. And sometimes it's a thought that comes into your head that gives you an answer. And sometimes it's someone else giving you a phone number. Thank you. Blessings to everybody. Bye.